Well, it looks like the live stream is running, and my name is Moshe, and I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee on this Monday morning. And the time here in Israel is about 8:20 in the morning, and it's kind of nasty. Was raining, did stop. Dogs were out. One of the dogs was outside and came in pretty wet. Wasn't happy about getting wet. So our weather's going to be not so great today. We're not going to get rain until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon again, and then it'll be just maybe an hour of rain or something, and then cloudy. It's actually intermittent cloudy, and then we don't see any more rain. That's the whole big deal. We did have some in the morning. And it's only going to hit 63. So our house is going to get cold again. And then tomorrow, sunny all day. We hit 65, but we're getting lows like 50. And then Wednesday, partially cloudy, and we hit 66. And then Thursday, sadly, we get the rain again. And we go back down to 64 as the high, 49 at night. So we're having a lot of trouble breaking out of this. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we get sun through the whole thing. So it's almost a week of sun, but the highs don't really get up there. So I'm confused. We're having sun with highs of 60, 61. I'm real confused. Oh, of course, it's getting cold at night. It's going into the 40s, like 47 at night. So we're still stuck in the transition from winter to spring. We're moving, but not so great. Not so bad either. We've had a bunch of days in the 70s. But I'm really looking for the house to warm up so we don't need the heaters anymore. And then when we get sun, we get hot water for free. We don't have to pay to heat the hot water up. You have a thing on the roof. What do they call it? A dude shemish. It's a water tank, and it runs on solar panels. And it does, I mean, it gets the water scalding hot from solar when the sun's out. It has to be, I'd say in the 60s. Like if it's 63 and you got a lot of sun, you're okay. If you're 68, 70, it's a piece of cake. And you get the hot water, you don't have to pay to heat it. The other way, you got to turn the electric heater on, and if it's like 60, 61 degrees and cold and nasty, you might have to keep it on 45 minutes, And then when your water gets warm, it'll be gone in 2 to 3 hours. You'll have room temperature water, You won't have cold water, but you won't have water where you're going to take a comfortable shower either. It would be a brisk cool shower. There are people that take cold showers. I don't know what they enjoy about the cold showers, but they seem to like it. All right, so oh. Okay, let's see. Let me go into the live stream, make sure we got it. Okay, what's going on today? Well, we got to spend a lot of time talking about Mexico. Now, this came all of a sudden out of nowhere, okay? And I'm not going to give you the whole thing now. I'll give it to you in a couple of minutes. But the cartel leader was killed, and it appears there was American involvement. And people are saying there was Iranian involvement. I don't believe that. And I mean, it could be, but I doubt it. And the cartels are going nuts in Mexico now. I'll talk about how dangerous it is and how dangerous the cartels are, and how the government is so stupid that they can't really do much about it if the cartel decides they're on the warpath. We'll get into all that. Before I just want to tell you, going everywhere from Mexico down to the tip bottom of South America, Ushuaia, Argentina, these countries down there are all really in the drug businesses. Possibly Argentina's not as in it as much as the others, so not that much at all. And I don't know if any others are really not in it. I think they're all in it. Myself, okay. I think they're all in it. I don't think there's any that it's not in it. Okay, let's take a look at our live stream. Now, Argentina is going to have drugs in there and stuff like that, but I don't think they're a great big drug exporter like some of the others. Okay. Thank you, moderators. Okay, I'm going to put a post up in the live stream, and it's going to be like really fast. It'll be like seconds, not minutes. Here we go. I'm just checking for typos. None. Let me get this up there. Okay. And I'm good. And being a Bible believing site, Old and New Testament, I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, let's get into it. Here we go. We'll cover the Iran stuff, and we'll get to the Mexico stuff. We'll be doing pretty much both at the same time, and then we'll get into the Bible and the prophecies. Okay? The Mexico stuff is definitely in the Bible. Okay, and I'll bring that out to you. An official security source in the New York Times, the aircraft carrier Gerald Ford is located south of Italy and will soon arrive near the coast of Israel. So is this within range of Iran? Let me think. It's to go to Rome from Ben Gurion Airport is 2.5 hours. So let's say 11. It's about 1,300 more. No, I don't think it's really in range yet. Another day. Well, this news was maybe from yesterday. I mean, it's Monday morning in Israel, but not that way all around the world. So I don't know. Maybe tonight or tomorrow morning or something. I think it's probably going to be in range of attacking Iran. I think it's close, but not yet there. So Trump is still going to be holding off. Now, this is probably troubling to the Donald, not me. Iran has struck a deal with Russia to purchase thousands of shoulder-launched air defense missiles in exchange for €500 million. So thousands. So what does that mean? 2,000, 5,000? I don't know. Can you shoot down sophisticated jets with these shoulder-fired missiles? Well, of course, it's going to depend on which one it is, but generally not a sophisticated jet. These things I don't believe are wire guided. When they shoot at a tank with a shoulder fired weapon, usually they're less than a mile from the tank, and it's wire guided, so they can make sure they just keep their high-tech sight on the tank after the firing, and the missile will hit the tank. Now, if the tank is moving, they could move it along with the tank and it'll get there. Now, when you're talking about hitting aircraft, you got a problem. How high up do these missiles go? Well, that's going to vary, but they're typically not going to go 30,000 feet, I would expect. By the time they got up that high, I don't know how much fuel they'd have left to go chase a plane. You got to remember, shoulder fired means you're not picking up something that's 18 inches wide and 12 feet long, okay? So it's a small thing. You can hold it maybe 40, 50 pounds. And it's not going to have a lot of fuel in the thing, okay? So I think you're looking probably mostly 5, 7, 10,000 feet max. I don't think you're looking at getting up too high. I don't know which generation this is and what they got, and it's probably rather potent to helicopters. Helicopters generally aren't going to get up more than a few thousand feet. They don't go flying around at 20, 30,000 feet. That would be rather unusual. They're usually running at a few thousand feet. Is it going to take down an F-35, an F-22, a B-1, or a B-2? Nah, come on. They would have to make a stupid mistake. They'd have to be flying very low, which I don't know why they would do that, over a target. And the guys with these anti-aircraft shoulder-fired missiles would have to pick it up and have to be low, like we're talking maybe 2,500 feet or 1,500 feet, and it would pick it up and get a lock on it and guide that missile to the target. And because it's so low and it would have to be close, the missile might actually get to the plane and the countermeasures may not work because it's so close. Generally speaking, you got a very low level threat here, okay? It will make the pilots concerned about doing any low passes, okay? These things are independent, so they're still going to work if Iran's radar gets blown up. So it's troubling, but it's not going to change the scope of the war. Okay, that's not anything yet you got to concern yourself with. So will they use those against buildings and tanks and stuff like that? Probably not tanks, but they could use them on other things, I suppose. Generally, they use the anti-tank shoulder-fired weapons to hit buildings and things like that. I want to read you about America's radar finding missile and how advanced it is. It's scary. America has real scary weapons. But I want to also tell you right now there was a test yesterday of Iran with a drone. You want to talk about scaring Trump? This drone flew over the Persian Gulf for 3.5 hours, and it was attaining speeds of 420 miles an hour. So this drone could chase a boat at a speed of, 15 times faster than the boat or something like that. So it could overtake the boat so easily. That boat could be a destroyer, not a aircraft carrier. I mean, it could be an aircraft carrier, not a submarine or anything like that. This is scaring Trump, no doubt. And Iran also did some ballistic missile tests, I think yesterday, day before, which is not going to make Trump feel any better either. But, it's one thing to go test your product, and it's another thing to have thousands of it, You could be testing a prototype and trying to scare the enemy, and you got nothing. You got one of those. I think this missile we're talking about is called the AGM Alpha Golf Mike 88G Golf AA Alpha Alpha Romeo Golf Mike hyphen Echo Romeo. Well, okay. It's an anti-radar missile, okay? And the Army has really revised these things. This is really how the war is going to start. Let's go through it. The missile is designed to hunt and destroy radar systems and surface-to-air missiles like the Russian S-400, and it does so precisely and much faster than its predecessors, okay? It has a new rocket engine. So they had the same existing anti-radar, system, and they put a new rocket engine into it to make it more effective. It has an aerodynamic, clean design without large wings in the middle of the missile. It can reach twice the range of previous models and fly at high supersonic speeds. They probably don't feel like telling us exactly how much, but I would say you're probably, they're not saying hypersonic, they're saying super. I would say you're probably looking at least 2,000 miles an hour, probably more, seriously, more like 4 to 5,000. I would think it's probably going to be 4 to 5,000 miles an hour. This allows the attack aircraft to stay out of the enemy's missile danger range. So, in other words, this is mounted on a plane, and the plane flies off the coast of Iran, let's say, maybe over another country or over the water of the Persian Gulf, gets a lock on the radar, which is easy, we'll cover that in a minute, and launches. And these are smart missiles. They go very low. They could go 50 feet over the surface, and the terrain mapped and everything, and they're going to get in. Okay. The missile is equipped with a multi-mode homing system. It has radiation sensors. It homes in on the radio waves emanated forth by the enemy's radar. So once they turn the radar on, boom, it gets the lock on it. Okay? If the enemy picks up that a missile has been launched at it and turns off the radar to disappear from the attacking missile, the AARGMER activates its own independent radar, identifies the launcher vehicle, and knows how to hit it even when it is silent. Okay. So once they turn their radar on for a few seconds, so America or Israel has to scare Iran to flip their radar on, and that's it, they're cooked. In short, this is a game changer of a missile. They've got it already adapted to fit on the F-35. So the F-35s are stealthy, and the missile is probably inside the fuselage, so it's not throwing off the stealth. So the plane can easily penetrate into enemy territory if it wants to, without being detected, launch a missile at the radar from a very long distance, still in the country, but out of the reach of the radar, destroy it, and exit unharmed. See, now this is scaring Iran beyond belief, because they know that what happens is their radar is going to get taken out. And that means that America and or Israel have unchecked carte blanche air superiority. They could do whatever they want. They could fly Piper Cubs over Iran and throw hand grenades down. Not quite, but almost. Okay. Yeah.
I've got a good insurance agent. He says we're only going to take your car to the Toyota place. He says we're going to have Toyota repair your car.
Oh, well, great. The other guy's paying for it, so
That's
good.
what I'm saying. He's
Yeah.
a good guy.
Yeah, you got a good guy there. You really do. So we prayed the other day for my wife in the accident. So I this is so shocking. I all I know how to do is tell you this. I don't want to color it. I'm just going to go with the facts, like Sergeant Friday. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. So he was nasty. He was trying to convince my wife it was her fault. He was kind of deceptive and shifty and not nice and condemning and stressed my wife out. And we all prayed and we did spiritual warfare, right? The next day, which was yesterday, I believe, he called her up and said,
I didn't answer. I found a text later.
yeah, he didn't answer, but then he sent her a text and said that he was basically saying he was at fault. I don't know if he said he was sorry. I think so. He said he was at fault. So that means basically it's over. And the thing has progressed now to getting the repairs to the body work of our car done, which his insurance company is going to have to pay. He works for that insurance company, he said. So my wife had a dash cam and it had fallen off at different times, but she turned it over to the um, our insurance carrier, and we don't know for sure at this point, but it could have been that it showed the video or something else. We don't know, but we're not running around punching a gift horse in the mouth, you know. It's a pain in the neck. You got to get the car fixed. It'll be in the shop. I don't know if they'll give us a rental. I'm not sure. They're going to have to do some repainting, some work on the grill, and the hood buckled. Usually it's not so easy to get a hood that buckled to unbuckled. Not so simple. It all depends. They might be able to straighten it out, and they may not. And then if they attempt to straighten out, have waves in it, which is not a repair. So if that's the case, then they'll have to probably go. There's two ways to do it. Okay. One way is go to a junkyard and buy a hood, and then they take the grinders and they get the paint and the primer and the rust and the corrosion off it, and then they sandblast it, and then they put it on the car. That's one way. The other way is to order a new one from Toyota. Um, so I don't know what's going to happen. The car's about 11 years old, so I don't know. I'm not at all. I don't know. To get some of the paint fell off from the impact, so they're going to have to take some of those panels off the car, I assume, or maybe tape it, and then spray, grind the old paint off, and then spray it on, getting the correct color paint from Toyota. It should be a match in color, but it may not be because the car is so old. So I'm not sure. The car was what you call cherry, low mileage and everything. We got it at about 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old, and it's a winner, but I don't think it messed up the alignment or anything like that. It was too low speed. So our insurance carrier said that they're just going to take the car and put it in the Toyota dealer body shop and let them take care of it. That's probably the best thing you're going to get. If they order the part, it'll probably be, well, they'd probably just order the part and let us have the car back. And then when the part comes, they'll do the work because the car is perfectly drivable. So Iran is talking about a deal with America. It's really a moron proposition, okay? And yeah, I mean, Iran. It's hard to believe that Iran really believes that their proposals are going to get accepted. I mean, they must really be thinking that they're really scaring Trump badly. Incredibly badly. I mean, I don't think they got Trump that scared, but I could be wrong. What they're talking about is just restricted to nuclear. They're talking about like half their existing nuclear product, uranium, they'll give to another country. Well, let me find it for you. I got it, and it's kind of comical even. Okay, so they're Iran's new deal uh, uh, is Iran would consider sending half of the most highly enriched uranium abroad, reducing the potential for weaponization. Only half of it. Dilute the remaining enriched uranium to lower levels. Okay, enforcement issues come to mind. Participate in a regional uranium enrichment consortium under broader diplomatic terms. So they're still going nuclear. Possibly allow U.S. companies to invest or operate in parts of Iran's oil and gas sector as part of a wider economic component of the deal. Seek recognition of its right to peaceful nuclear enrichment. With Iran, there's nothing peaceful. Under international law, in exchange for sanctions relief. Okay, sanctions relief. If you're going to let Chevron, who seems to be Trump's oil company, go into Iran and start working on the thing, yeah, they're going to take a piece of action out of it. It's going to be substantial money going to America. But to get that to work, you got to kill the sanctions on oil. Unless you're going to just say only the oil made by Chevron can be, it's still, they'd still agree to it because it gives them money again. So they're making concessions to get rid of the sanctions. And What they're not doing is giving any promises to not kill the protesters, which is one of Trump's pet peeves, by the way. And they're killing protesters now all over again. So they're not going to do anything about their ballistic missile program. And they're not going to do anything with their proxies. They're going to continue. So if Trump gives up the sanctions, they'll cut back their nuclear program. But they also, it appears, want Trump to recognize their right to have a peaceful nuclear program. There's no such thing as a peaceful anything with Iran. So the chances of Trump accepting this are really slim and none. He would really let down the Iranian people. He would let down Israel, and he'd really be letting down America. I mean, it'd be one of the stupidest things he could do. Iran is putting it out there as a nothing. They're giving up nothing, and they want the sanctions relieved. If they don't get the sanctions lifted, they're ready for war. They're playing a game of chicken with Trump to see who's going to start the war first. They know the amount of damage they're going to take in the war is massive. They also know that the elite of Iran are probably not going to get killed. They're also assuming there'll never be a ground war, which I think they might be right about. And they're also playing on the deterrent value of their missiles and drones and go-fast boats and submarines and disguised ships that look civilian but launch drones and missiles and all this. They're also playing on China having warships over there with them now, along with Russia having warships there now. So the whole thing is a mess. Do I think Trump is capable of being such a bloody moron that he would sign a nuclear deal with Iran and run around and try to convince the world he made a deal with them? Yes. Yes. He considers people far, far stupider than him. So yeah, he would do that. Do I think this is where it's headed? No. No. These same moron negotiations were going on just before we attacked and America attacked in June of 2025. So it looks like a rehash. Now, I told it to you, you know it, Iran knows it. So what happens? Well, I don't know what happens next. I'm trying to figure it out, but I think what Trump is trying to do is mark time for his other two aircraft carriers to get here, or at least one. America's fighting posture is heavily dependent on aircraft carriers. Okay. the problem that America has run into over the recent years, let's say 10 years, is the weapons capability, even the last 2 or 3 years, of attacking ships with missiles. The effectiveness has gone up tremendously. So these aircraft carriers are less and less useful. I don't know if America is going to get away from them, but eventually they're going to be pretty worthless. Why are the old battleships worthless? Because the old battleships were predominantly using 16-inch guns, 9 of them, which had an absolute maximum range of 25 miles. So an enemy can attack a battleship at a distance of 25, well, let's say 28 miles, using missiles, or 40 miles, and kill the battleship, and the battleship can't attack. So it's a pointless weapon. What is it good for? Well, it was good for naval battles, but predominantly attacking ships, for the battleship to attack ships. It could easily do that with a 5-inch gun or an 8-inch gun. It didn't need a 16-inch gun. This thing had 9 of them. What they used it for was when they were doing a landing in foreign soil, that was aggressively defended. They came with a few aircraft carriers. They used to have a bunch of them. Not an aircraft carrier, a battleship. They came with a few battleships, and they parked offshore several miles, which kept them out of reach of the enemy's weapons. Maybe they went 5 or 10 miles out, something like that. And they would be moving, so it was very difficult to hit them with artillery. And hitting, various strategic targets to enable the troops to land on a beachhead. So they would hit everything around the beach. Frequently, they would fire their guns for 3 days. They carried a lot of ammo. And they would pound the beach. Sometimes they were effective, and the machine gun nests were blown up, and sometimes it didn't work so well, and when the troops landed, they were being strafed by a lot of machine guns. Usually at a distance of, 3/4 of a mile or a mile or something like that. And that was rather dangerous. And then they were also getting hit with artillery on the beach that was fired from way inland, a few miles inland. So when the soldiers came with their landing boats and got out of their landing boats, what immediately happened is the machine gunners were mowing them down. And if they actually made it onto the beach, then they were getting pounded with artillery. So the fatality was rather high. What they had to do, they also would have planes dropping bombs on the beach. And it frequently would work. But there were times in World War II when it didn't work. The enemy would build concrete bunkers for artillery and machine gun nests that were very thick, multiple feet, 6 feet more. and they were set down in the earth, so they just had a little window. The window would be maybe like that the guys would look out, and it would be elevated so they could shoot down at the beach. And what they would try to do is keep pushing the American troops further. And they had weapons like flamethrowers. So if they could get close to the bunker, they'd aim the flamethrower in that window and they'd burn the guys out. Once they got out, they got gunned down. They would shoot bazookas at the window, throw hand grenades, and it was a bloody mess. It would usually take hours of slaughtering Americans till they got rid of these bunkers. It may go on for 2-3 hours. And they would keep loading the troops up on the beach to keep forcing everyone to. It was horrible. So their bombers, their planes, and their artillery weren't working. To some extent it did, but it didn't work that well. They're not doing that in Iran. They intend to fight Iran from the air, period. They're just going to get it by air attack. And that's the safest. They're not going to go slaughter their own troops and something like this. I'll be right back. Gotta get through. Could you move? So, what the fear is that Iran is going to go into suicidal mode, suicide attacks, which it will. If they land, they'd be confronting massive amount of tanks. And in the mountains of Iran, which is numerous mountains, they have artillery buried in the side of the mountain, tunnels into the side of the mountain, mortars, shoulder-fired weapons, machine guns. The roads wouldn't be usable. they would shoot at them from the mountains. They would lay mines, and be a lot of dead soldiers. Now, Trump's afraid not of a lot of dead pilots, because that's probably not going to happen, but a lot of blown up ships. So he wants the ships there. But aside from the aircraft carriers, he only has 10 or so ships. That's not a lot. I know Biden, at one time, there was 40-something boats there. So he's scared. Israel doesn't have aircraft carriers. Why? Because Israel specializes in just fighting wars that are on their borders, or maybe Iran, which is nearby. They don't go around the world and take the role of America as the great voice or the hammer of the whole earth. They don't do that. We have a small navy, and we need that to protect our shores, on the Mediterranean. Also concerned about the Red Sea a little bit too, up around the lot. But we got to be careful, about that. But we don't go on expeditions like America. Okay. So these are Trump's fears, and I don't believe he's going to buy into this garbage that Iran is cooking up. But he'll probably go talk to them and wait. Now, the aircraft carrier Ford is south of Italy, the Mediterranean. So, like I said, maybe late tonight or tomorrow it'll be within firing range, and probably by Thursday, if not Wednesday afternoon, it'll be near Israel. This is very possible. That doesn't mean that the fight's going to start. It doesn't mean that. And it's not necessarily the case. All right. Hold on. I got a message. I don't know what it is. Give me a second. We got a prayer request here. Okay, I got a prayer request that the government and the Congress of the U.S. would release the stimulus check money. Okay. There's a problem with that happened, and I never told you this, and I should have been forgetting it for a few days. The Supreme Court told Trump a lot of his tariffs, I would say, on foreign countries bringing goods into America are illegal. They told Trump he can have another route to get there that wouldn't be illegal, but what he did was illegal. So I think Trump knew going back to last year that there was going to be a Supreme Court blowback on it. Either his advisors told him or the Supreme Court or somebody. So he didn't do the stimulus checks because he knew he was getting blowback. And the money that he collected on those tariffs is supposed to be refunded. Now, he might play some games, but I think the Supreme Court is going to say, when you collected this tariff money, it was illegal. You got to give it back, cut and dry. So that's why I think the stimulus checks never came in. The money that he collected on the tariffs was possibly going to have to be given back, and the stimulus check was going to come from the tariff money. So that's just another massive failure of Trump. But we'll put the prayer out. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray that Trump and the government of the United States, the Congress, does give the people stimulus check money in a short time. And I pray this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with me if you're a believer. Okay. So we'll see what happens. But that Trump has other avenues of collecting these tariffs and making it legal, but I don't think he can go retroactive. He might try it, but he might not make it. This is Israel news that's important. The Netanyahu coalition is weighing advancing the ultra-Orthodox draft exemption bill despite legal objections. So the government may push the bill forward and try to get the Knesset, which is our one-house parliament, or Congress, one house, even if it risks being struck down by the Supreme Court. So the ultra-Orthodox are telling Netanyahu they want to return to his coalition. They have the two parties, Shas, SHAS, and United Torah Judaism, have an estimated 15 votes combined out of 120 total. And Netanyahu sort of needs them to not get thrown out of office, and they can't really find any contender that's going to give them a draft exemption. Bennett is the big contender. He's better than Netanyahu, but still another Satan bot junker, not going to ever give you anything good. He is not going for this draft exemption. So they got nowhere to go, so they keep trying to work with Netanyahu, and Netanyahu's just saying, well, I'll just string them along. Let's try to get the bill passed, and if it passes, great. Then the Supreme Court will strike it down, and it's not my fault, and I'll tell them I did what I could do, and we'll have to try to find another way to do this, and and then try to string them along. And the next scheduled election, not a vote of no confidence, is late October this year. So it's 8 months away. So when you get close enough to the election, I'd say by the time you hit July, it's pointless to have another election. They're not going to do it. So April, May, March, they might do it. An armed man was shot and killed after entering a secure perimeter of Mar-a-Lago. Secret Service dropped and killed the guy. Oh, the Secret Service agents, that were doing the shooting, what they're going to go through for probably 3 to 5 days. They're going to get blood tested for drugs and alcohol. They're going to get interrogated and grilled. Did you have to do this? Did you have another choice? Oh, they're going to get that. They're going to have to go to a shrink. It's just a nightmare. Trump goes and tells Greenland that, he makes an announcement their medical facilities on Greenland are deficient, and I'm going to send a American hospital ship there to help them out with medical. And they said they got fine medical, they don't need him, and they don't want the ship. A hospital ship is a rather large boat that has operating rooms, MRI, radar, not radar, x-rays, sonograms, anything, all the diagnostic laboratory, full pharmacy. It's just loaded for bear, and they do this from time to time. They go into facilities that need help, and they get them help. They can do outpatient clinic visits, so they could pull the boat right up to a dock and people could walk on and off, or if they have to, they can take the boat and put it a mile offshore and run shuttles if there's no deep water dock to hook up to, right? And people go on the boat and they could see a dermatologist, a internal medicine, I don't know if they do dental, no idea. So they said no. Because I think Trump was trying to be sneaky and say, oh, they don't have any good medical there, we need to help them. And Iran is threatening the United States every step of the way. Okay, every step of the way. And it's not being wasted on Trump. Believe me, he's upset. Iran would prefer not to be attacked by America because it knows it's going to take a bad beating. But it has limits as to, how far they'll go. U.S. submarine hunter aircraft are circling the Strait of Hormuz because Iran has at least 4 submarines in there. These are called U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon, and they hunt for subs. They hunt for mines, boat swarms. Um, More mysterious explosions in Tehran, and they're not getting any reports of airstrikes, so we don't know crystal clear what all is going on. It could be the protesters. I don't know. This is a quotation from a Palestinian Islamic scholar in Chicago. His name is Mohammed. Just uses. Oh, let me get his last name. Um, this is what he's saying. Now, he's in America. America, pay attention. We are not, we did not come to coexist. Speaking, he's in America. We are superior to everyone else and will not be surpassed. No one is above us. If other religions want to live with us, they have to worship Allah. So he's basically saying, if you want to continue to live in America, you're going to have to worship Allah, which you can't really do because there is no Allah, but you could make believe. Now there's God, Jehovah, but that's not Allah. I don't know who the heck Allah is. Okay. At least 9 C-17 transport planes, that's big, big stuff, right? Were spotted last night on their way to the Middle East. Okay. That would really be, I mean, there's just no end to what Trump's bringing in here. But I think he's just loading for bear. I don't think he's trying to scare the Iranians anymore. Israel, as I told you in the past, is not funding this border peace, nor is Israel paying to remove the debris from Gaza, which is going to be billions and billions of dollars. And Israel says they're not doing it. They're not going to contribute to the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip through Trump's Board of Peace. Zeev Elkin said that. I'm glad, because Trump was telling us that Israel's going to be paying for this by itself. And it was a very humiliating concept to, I mean, the Hamas started the problem. So why should Israel pay for it? It's ridiculous. The Israeli authorities have extended morning visiting hours for Jewish worshippers at the Temple Mount. That's the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, by 1 hour during Ramadan, making the first such move during the Islamic holy month. Now, it's very, very weird that they did this in Ramadan, because that's the violent holiday. Not always violent, but frequently violent holiday. Now, the Jews are allowed to go up there and pray, which is also unusual. They would have border police up there, which were usually Arabs or Bedouin or something, and they would, if they saw a Jew praying up on the Temple Mount, they would get him off the Temple Mount. They occasionally took somebody into custody, but they generally got rid of them. Now they can pray up there. This is an affront or an insult to the Muslims over there. Now, the Ayatollah Shmukhmeni in Iran is saying he's planning for his assassination possibility, and he appointed some stooge named Larijani to a key role. And he created a lot of successors for, I think, him and other people. So let me tell you what is really going on here. Khomeini, who I call Shmukhmeni, I hope you don't mind that, is scared of getting assassinated. So he's trying to show Trump and Netanyahu that it doesn't do any good to assassinate me, because I already have my successor. So there's going to be a continuity of leadership. It's going to take 5 minutes to transition. And that's what he did. And so that's his attempt to deter a big efforts to get rid of him and other key people. But it's still going to go on, because they're looking. See, Trump's not reading Bible prophecy and saying, well, Iran is part of Elam, which is, Iraq and Iran, maybe a little of Syria or Elam, and Elam gets destroyed completely in Jeremiah 49, and all the people have to leave Elam and they go into every nation of the earth, and they scatter there, and the sword follows them, and they get cut off. Now, let's break this down. They go into every nation of the earth. That means this happens before Jeremiah 30:11, where the Lord says he's going to destroy all the nations he scattered the Israelites into, which is probably every nation, probably being called by different names in the past. So if this were to happen after Jeremiah 30:11, it couldn't make sense, because the nations that Elam was going to be sent into wouldn't exist anymore. That's easy to understand. So is the timing for this pretty darn good looking right now? Oh, yeah. Yeah, real good looking. Looking good. looking real good. And I keep telling you, one of the subscribers who hears from the Lord told me that they repeatedly heard that the beginning of the destruction of the daughter of Babylon has begun, and that was probably 2 or 3 months ago. Probably 2 months, something like that. I'm guessing at the time, around that. That's pretty, it could have been 3 months. Now that's part of recompenses, and it may culminate. It's murder to, not murder, it's very, very, very difficult to try to coordinate the actual end of America. Look, the end of America takes time. The enemies come in, they kill the people throughout America. There's fires in and around the cities, which there's a lot of fires every day now in America, and that's a good fit. And they loot, plunder, and pillage the country. How long does that take? I mean, by air, New York to San Francisco is like 2,500 miles. You know, I mean, it's a big place. It's big. What are they going to plunder? I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know what gets destroyed by fire and attack. I don't know. Does it mean they're going to go house to house and plunder? It could. It could. They're not going to go to the, Biloxi, Mississippi ghettos and where the poor people live on welfare and go plunder those people, I don't think. But, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, the different islands around Miami Beach, where people live on with mansions, parts of, Fort Worth, probably parts of San Francisco, LA, lots of, Malibu, Beverly Hills, the easy ones. But rest assured, Oregon has expensive neighborhoods, so does Washington State, so does Idaho. They can go all over the place. And then how much of this stuff do they carry out? Do they take things only they can stuff in their pockets, like watches and rings, or do they get other stuff and schlep it out of there? Like what other stuff? Like, I don't know, like a piano, cars, trucks, motorcycles. So to get that stuff out of there, how do you do it? Well, you got to bring ships and planes and load it up and ship it out. But for you believers, I want to tell you not to worry about that, because I have a scripture for you. The wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. Now, God does pay these people back for attacking the daughter of Babylon, and that's their wages, to loot it. And he'll make sure they loot it. But if in the future they turn against Israel, which they likely will, then that puts them back in the jackpot where we loot and pillage those that attack us. So they're probably running around with 5 or 6 rings, chains, male earrings with rubies, and I don't know what else, Patek Philippe watches and on one hand and a Rolex on the other. People run around. I'm serious, they do. They wear these luxury watches that cost, hundreds of thousands of dollars. They wear 2 of them at the same time. Now, there are people like General Schwarzkopf, the guy from that war years ago with Iran. He wore 2 watches. He had one that showed him Iran time, and he had another that showed him Washington, D.C. time. So when he called him, he knew he didn't wake him up in the middle of the night unless he had to. So there is a remedy for that that's been around since the 40s or 50s. It's called GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. Rolex and many other watches make a watch that has the long hand for the minutes, the shorter hand for the hours, a sweet, skinny little tiny, like a piece of wire, second hand. And they have another hand that usually has a arrowhead thing on it. And that points um, to the hour of a second time zone. The minutes are going to be the same. So in other words, if you're looking at it's 9:42 here in Israel. So if you were trying to get Tokyo time, I don't know what the hours would be. Let's say it would be 2 or something like that in the afternoon. I'm just picking a number. It would be 2:42. So the minutes are going to be the same, except you got crazy time zones, but almost none. There's a crazy time zone in India where they're like 2.5 hours different from Israel. It goes like a half hour. But there's so few of those around the world. Now they can't figure out a way to make a GMT watch for that. What you can do is buy yourself a Casio for $15 or $25. And a lot of these Casios have multiple time zones you can set. So you can set the display to show your home time, and then you could have multiple. So you could have Tokyo, Paris, you know, uh, Rio de Janeiro, Russia, in there, and on one watch. So you can do that. You know, the funny thing is these Casios they sell there like $15 or $20, and people torture test them and they put them in a dryer. Some people run them through the washing machine a whole cycle. Others run them through a dryer. They're banging around. They heat them up and boiling water, and then they freeze them in ice, and they drop them, and these things still run. You can go out and buy yourself a $45,000 Rolex and hold it up around waist height and drop it on a concrete or a tile floor. And I think you're 50-50 if it survives the first drop. And it probably won't. It really won't. I don't think it would. And then if and what would it cost to repair it? Well, the crystal or the glass breaks and some stuff inside. Oh, you're probably looking at someplace between $1,500 and $4,000, where you could literally take these Casios and throw them up in the air and hit them with a baseball bat. People hit them with golf clubs. um, they test them to go 10 meters, which is like 32, 33 feet high, and they drop them on a hard surface from 10 meters. And the things don't get affected. You can go to YouTube and watch them take these inexpensive watches and drive over them with, they even do it with tanks and military vehicles, let alone pickup trucks and stuff, and they keep running. And you could go get your $100,000 Rolex or $500,000 Patek and, you know, drive over it, and you're going to have to have the whole watch rebuilt. It's rather funny. Even the smartwatches hold up. There's a lot of companies that make them, and you don't need to buy the big name brands like Apple. I wouldn't buy Apple. I wouldn't buy Apple anything if you could avoid it. That'd be the last thing to buy. But they got off brands you could buy. They're very inexpensive, and they set them to mil spec, which means the watch is set up to pass the tests that the military puts on their watches to give them to soldiers. So they're going to hold up. They tolerate lots of things, temperature changes, vibration, Rolex doesn't do much, and it's not just Rolex. It's Patek Philippe, Breitling, Omega. They don't. Omega seems to be more protective, making their watches hold up a little better, but really just taking a watch at waist height and dropping it on a hard floor is probably the most of these automatic watches that are self-winding that cost a fortune. They're almost all going to break. They're almost all going to break. Yet, the Victorinox people that make the Swiss Army knife, they have a brand, a sub brand called, I think, INOV or INOX. And one of these comes in a resin, not metal, just a resin. And they took this thing and they put it on a balloon and they took it up 43,000 feet into the atmosphere. 43,000 feet high. It actually had an odd number. It wasn't 000, but it was 43,000 feet plus. And then it released and it went down to earth and hit the ground. And the watch was fine. It was fine. And there was nothing wrong with it. And yet you can go buy yourself a $250,000 watch easy today. And if it's on the table and it falls off and hits the floor, it'll break. You know, and these watches that cost a fortune, they don't do anything. As well as the digital watches. You could buy a digital Casio that'll give you the moon, tides of the ocean, multiple time zones, alarms, the regular time, the day of the week, the date. For like $15 and drop it and nothing happens. What the kids do is they fill these watches with mineral oil, or there's other kinds of oil you can put in there. Now, you just only do this with the digital watch. You don't want to do it with moving parts, with hands, right? So they put it in there, and the price of that much oil is probably not so cheap. It's probably $6 or $8. The special oil. Oh, mineral oil would be $1 or $2, right? And you open the watch. Usually, you open the screws on the back, and you fill it with the oil, and then you wait for the bubbles to go out of the oil, and you very gently nudge it around, and then fill it again so there's no bubbles, and then reassemble the watch. And these cheap Rolexes or Casios rather, the cheap Casios will go down. They pressure test them with a machine where they put water under pressure on it, and they hold water at like 4,000 foot depth, 4,000 feet for a cheap watch. It's a scam, and not only were the Swiss watch people doing this to people, most of their watches do nothing. I mean, they have technology that was really exciting in the 1940s, 30s, but today, they're like almost 100 years old in their technology. A lot of them are not. They got more advanced stuff, but they basically do very little of anything. And they charge a fortune for these things, even if they're all stainless steel, not any precious metal. They'll still charge you $25,000, $30,000 for a lot of them with stainless steel. Now, they do make a good stainless steel, but probably for $500 you could buy a slab of that stainless steel this big, enough to make 100 watches or something. So They're making the watches in China. And the Swiss have corrupted their made in Switzerland thing, so they could take into account a certain percentage of the money, but they can take into account their marketing, their promotion, their packaging, and all that other stuff. So it makes it very easy for them to say it's a Swiss watch, but most of the components were made in China. And they're basically selling you a Chinese watch for tens of thousands of dollars. It does nothing. It does nothing. And they are self-winding because the watch aficionados don't want to buy a digital watch from Switzerland because although Switzerland does make a bunch of them, they're not any good. I mean, you could just get a Casio, a Citizen, a Seiko, much better for a tiny fraction of the money, you know. So they get the self-winding automatics, which are fragile. If you drop those or they get a lot of vibration, like if you go to the gun range and you shoot 22s, you know, you're going very gentle. Okay, but let's say you're shooting 357s or 44 Magnums or 460s, you should take your watch off. Because if it's a self-winding, because you don't have to take your $15 Casio off, but I would, but you know, because it's so much shock when you shoot the gun with a powerful rifle too. You got that shock and their vibration. It break your watch. So yeah, you could buy a $40,000 Rolex, not think and go to the range and fire your 44 Magnum, and then your watch got to go back to the factory for a few $1,000 overhaul. And you might not get it for 2 or 3 months. That's the reality. They got caught. They're going down. I mean, they're hanging on, and the watch promoters, the influencers on the internet, are acting like nothing's wrong, and they keep talking to them about their watches and you know how great they are, and they're coming out with a new this and a new that. And, yeah. But I see they selling their watches, stuff that would be list price, you know, for a very basic watch, $5,000. They're selling them in half price. Nobody, not so much Rolex, but a lot of the other brands, they're all junk. They're not good. I mean, they look great and they're very prestigious, but you're spending fortunes for a watch that if you push it off the table, you have it in your bathroom on the sink and it pushes off and lands on the tile floor, you don't have a watch anymore. Or if the clasp opens up and it slips off your hand and falls on the floor, I mean, it's really kind of weird, you know, really weird. And we understand that it goes on with the other luxury goods too. I know for years the Cartier was the big one. They make sunglasses for over $1,000, and the sunglasses are like they got lenses that cost 50 cents. You know, they don't put good lenses in there. If anybody's got a brain and they buy a pair of Cartier sunglasses for $1,500 with some exotic frames, and that's not with gold or platinum or anything, it may be a gold plating. What they got to do is they got to take it to um, the eye place, the optometrist, and have them put in real sunglass lenses that are going to do UV and all the other stuff. and not breakable, and and if you're going to get a really good set of lenses, and you mirror them and all that, it might cost you a few $100, on top of that. But a lot of people just spend their money and they buy. They keep them with the cheap lenses because they're not really using these sunglasses for any serious outdoor activity. They're just using them to look cool. Kind of funny. Okay, let's go. Netanyahu's in trouble now for recruiting foreign tycoons to help him reshape the media and just make himself look good in the media. Now, this is what he did that got him his 3 open criminal cases that are in process of trial now, was messing with the media. He keeps doing it because he doesn't want media out there criticizing him and educating the people as to what he's really doing. So he is a curse on the land of Israel. The UAE is now becoming a hotspot, so to speak. Russia sent 2 IL-76 aircraft to take the diplomatic people in the UAE out of there with their families and take them to Moscow. They probably have intel that makes them believe that Iran will hit the UAE, which is just across the Persian Gulf, so they could do it. And so there American bases in the UAE? Yeah, there's some stuff there. It makes it confirm that Iran has every intention of hitting American bases in these Middle Eastern countries, and that's going to get the Middle Eastern countries in an uproar against the Iranians, and they'll try to kill the Iranians as best they can. Most of them don't have a lot to do it with, but they'll sure try. Now we'll go to Mexico. The Mexican CNG cartel attacked the Guadalajara International Airport after their leader, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, was killed by the Mexican federal forces. Now, the intel is saying that America gave the Mexican federal forces intel on this guy, like where he is at what time and how to get him, and that's how they got him. Now, did the Pentagon say they did that? No. Does it sound like it's likely true? Yeah. Violence broke out in Puerto Vallarta. That's a pretty big resort area, I believe, on the Pacific in Mexico. After the Mexican army killed Jalisco Jalisco's new generation cartel. It's called CJNG. Leader Nemesio Ruben Aseguera Cervantes sure has a lot of names. What do you call this guy? You call him Nemesio Ruben Aseguera Cervantes. He's got 4 names. Okay. Known as El Mencho. I don't know what that means. Mensch is a Yiddish name meaning you're a good guy. But I don't know if they took it from the Yiddish or something else. I don't believe they would take it from the Yiddish. The guy does not have anything making me think he's a Jewish person, except one of his names makes me think he might really be, and that's Reuben, named after one of the tribes. Apparent retaliation: cartel members set buses and several buildings on fire, triggering chaos in parts of the city as security forces moved to contain the unrest. Okay, well, this tells us a few things. First of all, this particular cartel may not be one of the cartels that owns the Mexican government. Okay, so it may not be in that much power, so they decided they're going to get rid of it. Okay, I don't know that to be true, but it could be. Okay, but this particular cartel would have a serious amount of influence to get that big. So what we got going on right now in Mexico is very serious cartel violence, very serious. After the killing of their cartel boss, El Mencho, so you got vehicle burning, roadblocks across multiple states in Mexico. Mexico has states. So the cartels are blocking the roads. So what are the people going to do? Move your truck, I'm going to get out there and beat you up, and they'll go, spray his car with an AK-47. What are they going to do? Shout outs and chaos in Jalisco and Guadalajara. The U.S. Embassy is warning citizens to shelter in place. Well, they don't have another choice. They can't really tell the citizens to leave immediately because that would mean they got to start traveling around Mexico. And they went into one of the airports. Now, there's rumors that they're taking, hostages or prisoners, Americans, and that's why they were trying to do at the airport. And I'm not entirely up on exactly all of this. Maybe that was a fear more than a reality. I don't know. So U.S. CBS, Central Broadcasting Systems, reports that an American Pentagon team was involved in the elimination of El Mencho, the violent CNG cartel leader in Jalisco, Mexico. According to additional reports, the U.S. provided the intelligence for the operation. The cartel, this CJNG, called on its members to start killing Mexico police officials, which they did do, and soldiers and promised a reward of $1,200 for every soldier or police officer killed. So these crazy, jacked up on drugs kids in the cartel see a couple of police or soldiers, they take the AKs and they kill 6 or 7, they get a nice little payday. They're putting a bounty on their head. The Mexico Minister of Defense announced that along with El Mencho, 7 more senior members of the CJNG cartel have been eliminated. Well, that must have got them pretty mad. So 8 of their big shots got killed. Or they might have been bodyguards, maybe they weren't such big shots. Street battles are currently taking place in Mexico between the authorities and cartel members. Cartel members have begun setting up roadblocks and have called on all citizens to stay in their homes, that they will not be forced to kill them or something like that. So the cartel members are telling the people to stay indoors so they're not going to have to kill you. So when the cartels are giving a public warning, it's serious, isn't it? Yeah. So Mexico is in turmoil. The Americans had a $15 million bounty on this character, the head of the cartel. Imagine walking around living like that with people, you're waiting for people to turn you in for $15 million. That might have been what happened. Somebody took them up on the $15 million and worked with the Americans quietly, and they gave them the ransom for pinpointing the time and place where this guy would be. So the gang, the cartel, started to pursue a course of murder and terrorism. Malls were set on fire. Police officers were murdered. A break-in began at once of the prisons in the area. There was one prison where I believe they broke out, and but the people in the government are probably bigger criminals than the people in jail in Mexico. And the authorities in Mexico declared a flight ban. So there's a NOTAM over Jalisco. So this is a new round of bloodshed between the so-called authorities in Mexico, who are really cartel, and the actual cartels. And I think this is just a cartel that is weak and somebody didn't like them, or maybe the other cartels just thought we got to throw a cartel under the bus to shut Trump up and let's get this guy. And they might have done that. I don't know. It's going to be very hard ever get good motive on this, but we know what they did. Now, what do we think's going to happen in Mexico? Honestly, don't think you know what's going to happen in Mexico, because you don't. Let's see how big this cartel is. CJNG. That'll tell us a lot. Let's see. We should be able to get that in a few seconds. Estimated numbers. Yeah, you can't get it exact. Uh-oh. The total cartel count in Mexico is 160 to 185,000. What's the matter out there? 160 to 185,000. Now, this CJNG is one of the largest cartels. Wow. They're saying about 18% of them are CNJG. So we're getting a count of 28,000. They also have affiliates, but I think we got to stay with the 28,000. So 28,000 is huge. Can they take over Mexico? No. No. Can this be the beginning of one of Trump's genius ideas? I'm being facetious. Where he's going to start knocking off all the cartels, then all 180,000 or so get together and start ending Mexico. Yeah, they'd end Mexico. When is this going to stop? I don't know. It might not stop till they kill some high-ranking generals, high-ranking American officials they could get their hands on, if any. I don't know when it comes to an end. I don't know. They are obviously trying to create a strong deterrent to the government, that the government of Mexico doesn't ever try anything like this again. Okay. Where does this show up in prophecy? Well, I'll show it to you. In Jeremiah 50:51. Let me get the right verses for you. Jeremiah 50, verse 15. Shout against her round about. She hath given her hand, her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down. For it is the vengeance of Jehovah. Take vengeance upon her, as she hath done, do unto her. Speaking of America, but her walls are thrown down. What walls does America have? Do you have the Great Canadian American Wall? No, it ain't there. How about the Atlantic Ocean Wall? Gee, that ain't there either. There is no such thing. Nor is there a Pacific Wall. No. Nor is there a Florida Wall. No. There's a Mexico-American Wall. Over 2,000 miles of wall thrown down. So how hard is it for you to imagine that these Mexican cartel people pop their cork at America for being behind this assassination and start knocking the walls down so people can freely go into America and rob, plunder, steal, rape, do whatever they want? Jeremiah 51:44. And I will punish Bel in Babylon. That's one of the unclean spirits they worshipped in the old Babylon. And I will bring, Bel is, and I will bring forth out of the mouth that which he hath swallowed up, and the nations shall not flow together any more unto him. Yea, the wall of Babylon shall fall. That's your Mexican-American wall, kids. There ain't no other wall. Jeremiah 51:53. Though Babylon, it really in the text is Babel, which means confusion, but they got in the habit of saying Babylon, but it's not correct. But though they did that to confuse you, apparently. Though Babel should mount up to heaven, and though she should though Babel should mount up to heaven, and though she should fortify the height of her strength, yet from me shall spoilers come unto her, saith the Lord. Wait a minute. Where does it say walls here? Hold on. Fortify the height of her strength. I guess that's talking about the walls. Her defenses. the spoilers shall come unto her. They're going to loot and pillage the place. Jeremiah 51:58. Thus saith Jehovah of armies, the broad walls. Now that word broad can mean long, as I understand it. Okay. The long walls of Babylon shall be utterly broken, and her high gates shall be burned with fire, and the people shall labor in vain, and the folk in the fire, and they shall be weary. They're going to get weary in America, and there you are with the walls again, getting busted out. Okay. There you have it. America is the daughter of Babylon. People deny it, but it's ridiculous. It talks about America as the hammer of the whole earth. How could that not be Trump, the hammer of the whole earth, and the great voice? And it says the nations come to her and meet there. They gather together there. Where? The UN in New York City, which is land that Rockefeller gave to the UN. So how cozy. I have another scripture we'll go through that you will find rather interesting, and it's Matthew 5:17. Matthew 5:17 in the King James. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Okay? Now, the word for destroy is not truly destroy. The word for, and you know they mess with the English. The word for destroy really means null or nullify. Make it of no value anymore, no effect, or something like that, right? So he's saying, I didn't come to destroy, I didn't come to nullify the law and make it of no effect. Okay, what he's saying is, so he's saying, think not that I come to nullify the law. He didn't want you to think that. Or the prophets. I am not come to nullify, but to fulfill. Now, people don't understand this word fulfill. My wife got me into this. She explained it to me. She found it herself. Okay, fulfill, the word is really to make full or to know the fullness So he's saying he came for you to understand the fullness of the law, like the weightier things of the law, how important they are, how you treat the widows, the orphans, the poor people, the strangers, how you do business, unequal weights and measures, stuff like that, right? That's what he was talking about, to make you full with the Lord. What happens with redemption? He puts a heart of flesh in us. He puts the law in our heart. He gives us a heart of flesh, puts the law in our inward parts so we know the law. And it's not that you know what Moses' law was, it's the law. There's lots of things in the law. It's constantly was changing, and it's going to change again with the next temple. There's a law of the next temple in Ezekiel 43. So that's what it really means. So when these people say, the law is dead, he fulfilled it, they don't know what they're talking about. The law he came to not nullify the law, but to fill it, to make you understand the fullness of the law, what it really meant. And that makes perfect sense when you study it, doesn't it? So there you have it, my little words today. Okay, let's see what's going on in the live stream, if there's questions. Let's see what we got here. What's your favorite NBA and NFL? When I see these ball games, I say, I wish both sides lose. Make Israel great again. MIGA, make Israel great again. You want to get into conversations with people about the Bible. Get yourself some of these hats or t-shirts that say, make Israel great again, or better yet, Jeremiah 30:11. Put the words on a shirt that God's going to destroy all the nations he scattered the Israelites into, and you'll get some conversations. People aren't going to come up and hit you. They're going to ask you about it because they never knew it's in your Bible. The church never teaches that. Go try to find some churchianity guy teaching Jeremiah 30, verse 11. Good luck with that. All right. That bump on my gum went down. I asked you guys to pray for it. It's staying down now. It would go down and come up and go down, and now it's staying down. I guess it probably will stay down. It looks like it's finished. Got healed. All right. I'll say a prayer for us and we'll go. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers in their households. I pray that we would all have your strength, stamina, and endurance, and your healing and recuperative power would flow through us, healing everything that needs healing all the time. And I pray for us and our animals and pets that we would all be safe and secure, happy, healthy, and whole. And I pray we have no accidents, no tickets, no breakdowns, no getting stopped, stuck, or stranded with any vehicles or cars. I pray we don't get discriminated against, picked on. We don't get ripped off, robbed, attacked, scammed, frauded, hacked. And I pray that we know the scriptures better. And I pray for the peace of Jerusalem and I pray all this b'shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with this as a believer. And even if it's a video, please do if you're a believer. And we'll do a little bit of the keys of the kingdom stuff now, I guess. B'shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I lift or I loosen off of all of the true believers in our household any witchcraft, sorcery, curses, hexes, vexes, spells, enchantments are all null and void, of no value, no effect, and any unclean spirits in any of these people is immediately cast out, never to return again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out. I hope you got something out of this. Now, the Mexico thing can turn very, very serious or not. It's too soon to tell. A few people are saying Iran had something to do with this. I doubt it. I really doubt it. Highly doubt it. But let's watch this thing in Mexico. We don't know if it's going to get worse or better or what. I don't know. It's too soon to tell. And I will keep you updated on Iran, and we'll let you know about that. And if things break loose, I'll be doing a lot of live streams. In the meantime, I'll use Telegram for updates. And that's what I got. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out.